It's going live on Twitter. Hi, and welcome to the NBA Economy Show. This is Fritz, and I have my friend Lee Escobedo in the building. Yeah, we're definitely gonna bring a hot subject. You know, it's about that time. Um, in this season, which we're calling championship or bust for the Knicks. They had an opportunity over the summer to have an exclusive window to get Giannis, and that failed. But as we get into the trade deadline, perhaps they have another chance. And Jrue Holiday may have a role in that. And I would like to introduce Lee Escobedo. Um, where everybody know you from, Lee?
They probably know me from arguing with me on Twitter. You can find me on Twitter at underscore Lee Escobedo. For those who haven't already argued with me, feel free to start today. Or they've read my articles in The Guardian, where I write about the intersection of politics and sports, or my WNBA and NBA coverage for Bleach Report and Yardbarker currently this season.
Yeah, and Lee is a co-host of the Nick of Time show, a show near and dear to my heart. And he has been a huge addition, like a great co-host. And I really respect not only his takes, but his insight into the NBA. So
Appreciate
when
you.
we're talking about the deadline, we have to get to know Lee and see his thoughts on the deadline. When it comes to the NBA season, um, where do you think the Knicks are at this moment in time?
In the last 3 days, my mind has changed more than it has in the last season and a half. I have come to terms now after a season and a half of eye test evidence of this current starting five, because it's been the same under Tom Thibodeau last year as it is this year under Mike Brown, that this team is currently constructed with this starting five to not win a championship. And that might shock people who listen to this, knowing that I'm extremely optimistic and always jumping out the window when it comes to my Knicks. But I don't think the defense from Brunson at the one and Karl-Anthony Towns at the five is championship level. I think it's too compromised at the two most important positions defensively. And I don't think that the Knicks can ever be a top 10 defense with those two starting at the one and the five. And every team but the Denver Nuggets won a championship being a top 10 defense. So you're talking about countering history, and you're talking about doing what a team that had a top 10 player of all time in Jokic did. And I don't think there's anyone on this roster of Jokic's caliber. That includes Jalen Brunson, and it certainly includes Karl-Anthony Towns. So I am now at the mindset to we must improve. And if a player of Giannis Antetokounmpo's caliber is on the market, damn it, you do it, and then you figure everything else out afterwards. But I think that there's an opportunity here, and I'm reading the tea leaves in what's happening with Portland, and all of a sudden this renewed interest that's being reported by a very serious reporter in Mart Stein, a Dallas-based guy, my man. I think that's very real, and I think that is leading to a multi-team trade that would bring Giannis and Jrue Holiday to New York while sending out players to Portland and Milwaukee from the Knicks. Now, if we did Giannis, I don't give a damn about pick and roll efficiency on offense. It will figure itself out. What I care about is surrounding Brunson, who is one of the worst defenders in the NBA, with elite defenders. And if three of his starters can be Jrue Holiday, even at 35, Giannis and OG Anunoby, that center could be Hut Porty, Mitchell Robinson, or some stretch five we find a bargain bin deal. That is winning a championship as the favorite to come out the East.
Well, do you, Giannis is one of the no doubt top three players in the NBA. Do you think there's a price that's too much?
Yeah, giving up Brunson is obviously too much. I also think giving up Cat, OG, and Mikal Bridges, who are our three best players after Brunson. I'm not saying most important, because I think that would put Mitch above Mikal Bridges. It's very tough, right? It's very close there. But giving up three of those contracts, I would be against, not just because of the money, but it's also because of the continuity, the roles, the established nature of our current totem. I think that would be stripping us too much of our identity, and then we become something that would require too much time to gel. You need to add a piece into the culture to enhance it, not do a complete 180 turnovers. The 180 turnovers rarely work throughout NBA modernity, and I'm talking about the 21st century. Very rarely does that work. You have to make enhancements, not complete overhauls. But I think any deal that involves 2 out of our 5 starters, not named Jalen Brunson, and it gets you Giannis and Jrue Holiday, you make the deal, because Jrue Holiday becomes your 4th option on a championship level team, and he is a proven playoff contender. He steps up in the playoffs for 2 teams now. He's been instrumental to bring championships to Milwaukee and Boston, and he is the perfect backcourt mate for Jalen Brunson and his ability to guard up, hit threes under pressure, be able to also bring the ball up and let Brunson sit. And the offense doesn't just maintain, it could even be enhanced because of the defense he would provide at the point of attack, and that he's a more natural playmaker than Jalen Brunson as well. That trade fixes every single one of our issues but the stretch 5. So you would have to make an additional trade. This is where maybe Deuce is swapped for a young guy on his rookie scale deal. But if you think about it, if Deuce is traded, that's a very good 5 you're getting back, because Deuce's stock has never been higher. And he's on a super team-friendly contract for now. So you could trade Deuce for someone on their rookie scale deal. That could even be a lottery pick if it's a 9th or 10th or 11th type guy that was drafted there. Or you'd package someone like, I think it's unlikely, but maybe Josh Hart, or maybe it's another minimum through a Jordan Clarkson or Landry Shamet trade. There are avenues there for us to improve and bring in that stretch 5. But if that's really the only wrench in the system, who gives a damn, honestly? You do it. You pull the trigger and you figure it out later.
Yeah. So, there are those people who say, hey, basically, Jalen Brunson's safe. Take any 2 you want, and we'll be fine. Do you think there is an optimal combination? Like, if Giannis was on this team, is there a group that you think would be the best, along with Jalen Brunson?
Yeah, it's the one that I proposed on Twitter that blew up without me expecting. I mean, you always hope that a post gains some level of virality so that the conversation can start and it brings eyes onto the other work that you're doing as a creative and as a writer. But I think it's what I proposed. It's some ancillary pieces like Tyler Kolek or Pacome Dadier or Dursan Yabusele, which would have to be attached to Bridges if Jrue Holiday is come in order for the money to work. And then Karl-Anthony Towns. Karl-Anthony Towns and Mikal Bridges have been the 2 most disappointing players on this roster. They're also the 2 that cost us the most in order to acquire, losing Dante DiVincenzo, a pick, and Julius Randle, who was ostensibly our second best player on the Knicks when he was here. and then trading 5 first-round picks for Mikal Bridges. If you end up trading those two pieces and you get back Jrue Holiday and you get back Giannis and you have to additionally add some swaps, you reroute the picks that Portland owns in Milwaukee, that everything becomes equal. You don't even need revisionist history at that point because now the pitch you gave up, the players you gave up, netted you Giannis Antetokounmpo and Jrue Holiday, right? Probably the number one, number two most important players in that Bucks championship. So to me, the best case scenario is that Bridges and Giannis are sent out, but I would also be happy with Cat and OG Anunoby sent out. But my primary focus would be to keep OG because if you're surrounding Brunson with Jrue, Giannis, Deuce, and OG and Mitch off the bench, I mean, that the potential closing five defensively of Jrue, Deuce, OG, Giannis, and Mitch is the best defensive five-player combination in the entire NBA. That is absolute historic elite level defense in every possible schematic output. You have to make that trade because it enhances Jalen Brunson.
Yeah, I think we're going to get to that trade in a little bit. Probably before we get to your trade, we're going to go over some probably the popular. There's probably a most popular rumor going out. Not, I wouldn't say rumor, proposal by Yossi Goslin. I probably want us to look at that one first
Yep.
before we look at yours. Yeah, so also a little bit more questions by Giannis. His current status with his current injury. Um, does it make you apprehensive about trading?
Hell no. Well, I mean, I'm apprehensive about what we have right now. Karl-Anthony Towns seems to be playing through 3 or 4 different injuries, right? He's a big body that I think he turns 31 this year. He did turn or he will be turning 31. So he's just as old as Giannis is and very injury prone as well. OG Anunoby is injury prone. Jalen Brunson, the injuries are starting to rack up for him too. I mean, you can make issues with every single player on the roster, right, in terms of their deficiencies. But we're okay with trying to run with this team as is to win a chip. So why not take a risk as well to add in someone who increases their ceiling tenfold through Giannis, especially on the side of the ball that matters the most on defense. I trust Casey Smith and the best medical staff in basketball. If they've been able to mitigate serious injury to OG and serious injury to Mitch, two of the most injury-prone players in the NBA, I think they can handle the workload of Giannis as well to ensure that he's healthy during the playoffs series. Because we have players, too, that have struggled with calf strains in terms of OG Anunoby and Karl-Anthony Towns. So, to me, it's absolutely worth it. If this is the Isaiah Thomas years or the Phil Jackson years, yeah, there's a lot of skepticism one could have about the ecosystem that Giannis would be entering, but I don't have any of those fears under Leon Rose.
Okay. And just a little further question on that. Because, Giannis self-diagnosed himself as being out for 4 to 6 weeks. And, the trade deadline's on the 5th. If the Knicks had to wait a month to bring Giannis on, do you think the Knicks would still be at the top of the East, top half of the East?
Yes, I do. I think because removing Cat from the starting five and from the roster entirely would instantly make you a better defensive unit. Every single combination that involves Cat on the floor is either nominal or a net minus on the defensive side of the ball. So you would immediately improve defensively while probably losing some ground offensively. I think you would probably float during that month stretch to like the 4th or 5th seed. But because the East is so close after the Detroit, from Detroit on down, it's very close. Detroit has a sizable edge in first right now, but it's very tight. So I think once Giannis returned, you could easily get back to the 3rd or 4th seed and have home court advantage in at least the first round. But none of that really would matter to me because if you have a healthy Giannis, I don't give a damn if we have home court advantage or not. We're winning every single series in the East. There's no way we're going to match up to like OKC, for example, if they came out the West. So really ranking and a home court advantage doesn't really matter to me as much as having Giannis on the roster matters to me. So to me, Giannis is so good and has proven that he can win with really no other superstar beside him in Milwaukee. In modernity, in the 21st century, he has proven that. And within the last 5 years, he has proven that with a mid-coach in I can't remember his name. Uh, Bud, yeah, but Budenholzer, Mike Brown and Budenholzer to me are net neutral. They're the same level coach. So if he can win with Bud, he can win with Mike Brown. So there are no serious reasons not to make this trade now because it enhances you again on the side of the ball that matters the most, defense.
Okay. So you're on board. His current injury status isn't a huge concern. Um, what is some of the? I know you spoke about Jrue Holiday, um, perhaps coming in a deal. What are some of the what does Jrue Holiday bring to an NBA squad?
Championship pedigree. He's no longer the same player offensively or defensively that he was when Milwaukee won the championship,
Mm-hmm.
and even not the same player he was when Boston won the championship. He actually kind of became an exposed area that we were able to hunt with Brunson last year in the playoffs when we faced him. He seemed to take a step back. But I do think in this role that he would be in, he would be one of many perimeter players that we would have on the floor. He would never be tasked with guarding the best player because we would have OG Anunoby and Giannis in the starting five. Not to mention Mitchell Robinson playing 18 to 20 minutes a night guarding the post. Not to mention Deuce Bride still off the bench and Landry Shamet still off the bench. So he would be a part of a defensive unit rather than having to be the first, second, or third best defensive player on the team. I think that would help him extend his career, not only his career, but the end of his prime for another season, I think. But he brings secondary ball handling. Brunson can sit, and you give up absolutely nothing. Not like Tyler Kolwick, who can set the table and playmate, but he can't defend. Jrue Holiday can do both, and he has proven he can hit big shots in the playoffs. And the playoff resume has been one of the cornerstones of every single player that Leon Rose has targeted. Whether he's got him or not is one thing, but everyone that he's targeted has a very solid playoff resume. Even Bojan Bogdanovic the 2 years ago, he targeted him and Albert Burks because they had moments where they showed that they played better in the playoffs than they do in the regular season. Jordan Clarkson's another example of that. So to me, I think Jrue Holiday brings in even a better resume than all those guys combined because he has 2 chips under his name as a key crucial player. And here he wouldn't have to do anything primarily. He would be secondary ball handler, secondary scoring, secondary passing, secondary three-point shooting. Everything would be in kind of a tertiary role player capacity where he wouldn't be over relied on or overextended that like he sometimes was in Boston and definitely was in Milwaukee.
And I know a lot of people they always comparison is kind of the thief of joy. Um, when you compare Mikal Bridges with Jrue Holiday, how do how do you see them? Do you see as Mikal is a superior player?
Career wise, Jrue Holiday is superior. Definitely, Jrue Holiday is probably the best two-way guard of the last decade. Right now, though, in current era, Mikal Bridges is superior to Jrue Holiday, and I would say he's superior in everything but screen navigation and playmaking. Even though he's become a very good playmaker, he's essentially become our backup point guard. But I would say those two areas, screen navigation and playmaking, are 2 things I think he is weaker than Jrue Holiday on. Those are 2 things that we need desperately at that 2 guard spot, or even Drew's ability to play at the 3, the same way that Bridges has shown too. So to me, I think right now, Mikal Bridges is the better player, but I think there's an argument to be made that Jrue Holiday would be the better fit because of the ability of Brunson to sit and he can take over the 1 guard spot, and they need to plug and play someone like Shamit or Deuce next to him that is a knockdown catch and shoot shooter that's off ball. I mean, the combinations, there's no pick and roll duo that would be able to cook us barbecue chicken style because we would have an above average defender at all times, either the 1 or the 2.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So like, I know there are a difference, but it's not a huge fall off. It isn't. Hey, we're trading an all star, um, which Mikel isn't, for someone who is you know a bare barely hanging on. So he does bring a lot to the team, and I think ultimately, um, if it nets Giannis, um, it could be a huge plus. Would you trade Mikel for Jrue Holiday if it's not a guarantee that Giannis would come along?
No, 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 I would not, because I think Drew Holiday on his own shortens your window
Mhm.
by 2 seasons. Giannis, the only way I would want to target Drew Holiday is if it's guaranteed that Giannis is coming. And the thought process I have is if it at the bare minimum, those three teams, Trailblazers, Knicks, and Bucks are all involved in a conversation where pieces are going from and to each team, that the pits that Portland owns of Milwaukee from a Dame trade would be some type of satisfying the pit demand to Milwaukee, because now they would have control over their tank, which is essential for teams trying to look to rebuild after trading their cornerstone player. So that to me makes more sense. Drew on his own, to me, I think that's a failure, because there's a sunk cost element to it here, right? Whether you want to call it a fallacy or not, you're essentially saying, "Oh, we trade 5 picks for Drew Holiday," and that kind of becomes conversation into a conversation of worst trade of the millennium at that point, if you're trading 5 picks for 35-year-old Drew. But if it also comes with Giannis, you're talking about completely different context.
Yeah. So yeah, it's the whole package. It's not just those two players. We're gonna go look at your trade, but we're gonna throw it up. We're gonna throw up the disclaimer first.
All included trade ideas are purely hypothetical. We are not originating rumors or claiming insider knowledge. Any players included in a hypothetical trade are not disliked, hated, or the object of scorn. Players are not included in trades to create clickbait. Any resulting animus, ill will, or hurt feelings seem like a personal problem. Argue with your mama. Enjoy!
All
Yo,
right.
hey, yo! Did you make that? Is unbelievably brilliant, bro. That's one of the best things I've seen on a podcast ever. Congratulations,
All
you
right.
cooked.
All right. You know what? We're gonna look at your trade real quick. 1 second. We're gonna look at this one in a second, but we're gonna look at yours first. And I took up your tweet, and just again, just roll through and kind of tell everybody how this works in theory.
Yeah, so I did not go to Real GM Trade Checker and check the financials. I just kind of did an estimation looking on each team's basketball reference salary cap sheet and put together a trade that I thought would at least have a plus or minus or 2 or 3 million that would be able to be mitigated by extra players or picks or some type of additional salary being added to it so that it works financially, right? Because I know the Knicks are very close as an apron, and all of that is very important when considering hypotheticals. But my goal here was to follow the tea leaves. I'm not talking about the Knicks acquiring something like Ryan Rollins, right? I'm not talking about the Knicks acquiring Miles Turner. I connected it to the solid reporting from Mark Stein, which said that the Knicks are interested in Jrue Holiday, and then the reporting by multiple sources that the Knicks have been interested, even made a trade offer this past summer, as you alluded to, for Giannis and the Antetokounmpo. Also, Giannis seemingly being unhappy and injured at this point, and the trade deadline is approaching. So does he want to leave Milwaukee? What I did leave out is that his bum-ass brother wasn't included in my trade proposal, and I definitely should have done that, because there's no way that a Giannis trade doesn't happen without his bum-ass brother also coming over here in another wave of nepotism. But we are the nepotism Knicks, and there's no way that that's going to dissuade Leon Rose from making the deal. He is a king of nepotism, so I see no issue with that. But essentially what I have here is a Knicks fortifying their defense with Jrue Holiday and Giannis, while the Bucks have retained partial control back of their future picks and swaps from the Portland Trailblazers and Dame Lillard trade, while also receiving the Wizards pick, which lots of feedback on the validity of how good that pick is. Totally fine. Also, Towns, we can keep or flip, plus a couple of swaps, which I argue are actually valuable, because I mean, by the time those swaps would convey is like past, one of them is past 2030. So there's no guarantee on what the Knicks look like past 2030. So I wouldn't automatically assume those are bad. And then Tyler Click, the Blazers getting Mikal Bridges, who, again, there has been reporting, I believe, by Yahoo, that reported that Mikal Bridges has been appointed a player of interest by the Blazers for over a season or two. Yabusele is a salary match. And then if necessary, if Milwaukee wants the deal sweetened, as they should, potentially Ryan Rollins going to Portland as well in that deal.
All right. So we're gonna take a real time break it down because on paper, like you have to make all the money match and make sure all the salaries match. So that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna take a look at it, and then we're gonna kind of plug everything in. So we're taking Giannis to the Knicks. That's the huge part. Jrue Holiday to the Knicks, and Karl Anthony Towns. And Carl goes to Lee. Where does Karl Anthony Towns go?
Milwaukee.
Milwaukee. Okay. And let's see. It was Yabu.
Yes, Yabu to Portland.
Yabu to Portland. Mikal Bridges to Portland.
I want to highlight a
then
few while you're doing this, a few things in the chat. The best question I've seen so far is BW1728. My question is, what would it take to add Donovan Kleingen to the deal as our stretch five? I think that's beyond our capacity. For the Knicks to acquire Kleingen, we would have to give up first round picks that we don't currently have control over, that we gave up in the Brooklyn Nets deal. Kleingen is one of the top three best emerging big men in the NBA. He is already one of the most elite rim protectors and defensive rebounders and pick and roll defenders in the NBA. He is someone who the Blazers is probably the number one guy they would not trade. Very close with him and Kamara, but I think Kleingen holds more because he plays a more important position at the five. So I don't think there's any way, shape, or form that we could get him unless we were offloading something that would completely strip the entire identity of a Knicks roster. I'm talking about Deuce, also Hart, also maybe Mitch is expiring. Like, to me, that's too much to do. We should look elsewhere for something that's a little bit more affordable, whether it be someone on a rookie scale deal that Deuce can match, even though I would want to retain Deuce, or looking elsewhere with a Mitchell Robinson trade or a Josh Hart trade, so on and so forth.
actually, I did have a Klingon trade for mine, but what I was doing, I was not going for Giannis. I was like kind of like keeping Giannis out of it and just, hey, let's just get Klingon and basically. Let me see. Probably, I don't know. We'll see how it runs. We'll see.
I've also seen some speculation on. I see a comment here by. No, this is a guy that Jay Ellis couldn't pronounce. Luck et Skywalker. I apologize, brother. Giannis has to come with Bobby Portis. I love Bobby Portis. We'd love to have a reunion with Crazy Eyes Portis here in New York. I think the only way that could happen is by including Mitchell Robinson in the deal, and then you're kind of it becomes lateral. And the point of this trade is to get better. You don't want to give up your defensive anchor in Mitch and then trade him for someone like Bobby Portis, who really is less of a stretch five than Ariel Hotporty. I mean, less of a real center as Ariel Hotporty. I think he's more of a four. You can play him in five in spots, as Milwaukee did, but their primary rim protector was Brook Lopez for the majority of their championship contention run. Now it's Miles Turner. You can't depend on Portis as your five. You can just have him play minutes at the five. But I don't think it's worth giving up Mitchell Robinson or Josh Hart for Bobby Portis.
Okay. So I think this is basically this trade worked out.
And appreciate y'all joining us today, man. We got over 100 people in the chat already, bro. Like, we're just talking about some trades, man. There's been a lot of rumors and speculation on the timeline. I didn't expect this trade that I had produced to go. I woke up and I was like, holy hell. I was really surprised at not just the likes, but all of the comments. It's funny when you get 700 people, like around 700 liking your status, and then you have like over 100 comments that are just like, this is dog shit. This doesn't make sense. Why would we do this? And I looked at who they are coming from, and a lot of them are either bots that have been around since like 2013 with 10 followers, or they're Portland Trailblazer fans.
Yeah, absolutely. So actually, when I bring out this trade, what actually happens is it doesn't quite come out work out. But what we're gonna try to do is try to see if what can we shuffle around to make it work.
I'm
So
happy to get
base
rid of Kolek or happy to get rid of Jordan Clarkson, put on
Kolek is
Dadier's
2.8.
dumbass, whatever it
Um,
takes.
okay, so three. So basically, the Knicks have three players going out, two coming in. Okay, so this is gonna be tough. So unless it gets a lot bigger, it's gonna have to be either Deuce or actually Kolek.
I don't want to include Deuce, but I'll say this right now. If I'm not going to let Deuce hang up a trade for Giannis. If this is the way that we get Giannis and Jrue Holiday, then Deuce is going to leave. But I would want to do everything I can to keep Deuce because I think he's been well worth our investment, and him and Mitchell Robinson have been our two best development stories. Damn it, in the last 25 years.
Yeah. Yeah. Let me see who I can add Deuce to.
Can we do Clarkson over Deuce?
It's still the number won't work. Still, I can do it to show how it works, but
I trust you.
Clarkston. We'll put him on the Bucks first. So we're actually short here, and then since you're sending out two more players, you have to fill the two spots.
Right.
So yeah, that's why I think you're probably gonna have to give up Deuce, and
So
even
here,
then, it'll be very close. You may
let me,
actually
this
have
is my
to sign
question for you.
Think Fate. Actually,
My question is it possible to get rid of Clarkson and not Deuce and then use either Dink or Dylan Jones or Trey Jameson or Kevin McCullough Jr. to fill spots at very low thresholds?
not currently. This if I did Deuce, that's four out, two in. Still wouldn't be enough. Even if you signed Dink Pate. Dink Pate would be 1.2, but you would be a player short.
Not even Dylan Jones?
No. We would have just enough to sign Dink Pate and would still be a player short. We would need about 1.1 more $1 million to sign Dylan
Can,
Jones.
can we sign some bum from our G League team as a holdover?
It would still be 1.2. So actually, what we can, everybody's gonna kill me for putting Mitch in it. We put Gershon. Would you put Mitch in any of these trades?
No.
Okay.
Because then it's not that you don't have a stretch five. You don't have a center.
You don't have a center period. Yeah.
Right.
And
So,
Huck
yeah.
Porty isn't. Yeah, Huck Porty isn't holding anything down.
I think Huck can start next to Giannis if Mitch is coming off the bench. But Huck can't start with Trey Jameson coming off the bench. That's ridiculous.
Oh, I probably have to work on this.
I'm sure that there's between Brock Aller and Leon, I'm sure there's finagling they could do to make these type of things. Or we've seen the Knicks do things that we haven't seen any other team in the NBA do. All these like Landry Shamet, Garrison Matthews playing for the summer league team, and then like waiting weeks and weeks until they sign and the right date. Like this is why Leon went out and got Brock Aller, is that he is the smartest person in the room when it comes to cap strategy. So I'm not I am neither motivated or dissuaded by any type of like finance, which is why I didn't do it myself, right? Because I know there are people smarter than me in the Knicks front office in terms of this that can make this happen without giving up key pieces for our rotation. I think Brock Howard can make it happen personally.
Yeah, it's tough because like in season, the rules are different than off season. Off season, there's a lot more tricks you can do with the cap that you can't do during the season. So, if you're subscribed, what we'll do is we'll probably revise it and put that trade out there. But I do want you to see probably the most popular trade I've seen on
Also,
the
shout
internet.
out to the 108 people watching right now. If you are on Twitter, make sure you go to YouTube, the NBA Economy Show, smash the like button, and give it a subscribe. Fritz Alessander is one of the smartest cap guys that we have on Twitter. He's my intellectual brother in arms on the KOT show, and he puts out great content consistently with high quality images, video, and production with a great mic, great setup. He's definitely worth supporting, a solid entrepreneur that's trying to make his name in these Twitter streets. So please give my bro a like.
No, thank you, bro. So
Of
this
course.
is the most popular one we've seen, and this is by Yossi Goslin, cap guy. Um, and there are problems with this trade, and I know people may look at this trade and say, "Oh, it's close to what we were just talking about," but I don't think I would do this trade. And there are several reasons why.
My,
First
my
off,
first question to you, Fritz.
yep,
I want to ask a question before we enter this because I'm
sure.
seeing inconsistency here.
Mhm.
How can this trade work with Jeremiah Grant, who makes 32 million, but it doesn't work with Jrue Holiday, who makes 31?
Actually, Jrue Holiday. Let me see. There may be differences. 1 second. I'm not sure if one has a trade kicker. Anybody here have a trade kicker?
So Jrue Holiday makes 32.4.
Yeah. And actually, this one I don't think actually works actually, because they're 4 out, 2 in, and there's 4.2. So this one does actually work.
But it feels like it's the same amount as Jrue Holiday, though, which is why I'm confused.
Miles McBride and Dadier. Use Miles McBride and Dadier.
Oh, well, I mean,
Actually,
let's
there's
do this trade.
5 out. There's actually 5 out. So you're probably you're signing a vet and you're gonna sign two players, um, 2 players from the G League.
Well, Fritz, swap out Grant for Jrue Holiday and pull the trigger. Let's sign that vet and the two players from the G League. Let's make it happen, bro. Call Leon now.
You I don't. You would take Jeremiah Grant
No, I'm saying
over.
swap out Grant for Jrue. I really no. I don't want Grant at all. I have
Okay.
zero interest in Jeremiah. Zero, none. Contract's ass, and he's a mid player. I want
Yeah.
Jrue, but if the money's the same, you just gave me a way forward, a path forward. Swap out Grant, put in Jrue, pull the trigger.
Yeah. Pacome. Yeah. So you're using a lot more players in this one. So Pacome, and we're gonna.
I have a feeling this is probably what was offered by Portland. I think there was probably some conversations between the Knicks, and I'm trying to figure out why did the Knicks not pull the trigger on Giannis. And I think that Jeremiah Grant contract is the number one reason. I think that they were probably really trying to push that on the Knicks and trying to retain Jrue Holiday. Because if you're bringing Bridges, right, it kind of made sense that you're going to try to compete this year in some degree in the playoffs. So Jrue makes more sense than Jeremiah Grant for leadership and at the most important position at point guard. I think Leon was like, I absolutely don't want that Jeremiah Grant. And why would you? It's one of the worst contracts in the NBA for
Yeah.
someone who is a wing but can't rebound, barely defends, and is an inconsistent shooter. Bro, what the hell?
Yeah. So yeah, this is your trade, and basically with those same players. So actually, it does work. Um,
Let's go.
yeah. So you would have to add. You can add one vet, and then you can add 2 people from the G League. So Dink, and then another player.
Pull the trigger, Leon.
Yeah. So what
They've
we're
been
gonna
hiring
do?
me in the
I'm
front
gonna.
office.
Yeah, we're gonna save this.
Gerson Rosas, you follow me on LinkedIn, brother. I know you're watching right now. Hire me and Fritz, man.
Yeah. So basically, that's what works. And when it comes to this trade, the reason why we wouldn't do it is Jeremy Grant. Like,
Yeah.
there's a big difference between Jeremy Grant and Jrue Holiday. Like, I think people look at those numbers like, hey, it's the same thing. I think Jrue Holiday has value. Jeremy Grant, Portland tried to trade him for Kyle Kuzma, and Milwaukee said no already. So, like, it's not the same. It is not.
This trade puts you right up against the second apron, and then puts you in a position where you're stuck for Jeremiah Grant for the entirety of his contract. Because why would any team help you out to take him off your hands so you can win another championship or your first championship? That he is a poison pill in a player form, in my opinion, because he's bad at 3, he's bad at 4, and he's terrible at the 5. So you can't start him. Now you have a malcontent who thinks he's a starter coming off the bench, and I think that to really disrupt chemistry as well. And there's not a strong position for him. It's not like, well, at the bare minimum, he's a great rim protector, right? Or at the bare minimum, he's a great offensive rebounder. So he kind of like gives you some of your identity, your current identity. He gives you none of that. He's someone who wants to come in and be on ball and score on an island. That's not what we need. And to me, we don't need another wing that doesn't play defense. So I hate the idea of adding him because it makes it so much harder to fit your flaws around Giannis, because you have a contract that becomes absolutely unmovable, and you don't have the pits to attach to make it even to lubricate it. Pause to make it more tradable. Maybe a team that's going to take on salary and give you back one of their aging vets. That is a horrible deal because he is stuck, and it adds more problems than it gives you fixes. Now, you still don't have a center, and you have more limited resources to go after one. You're also stuck with a contract for someone who isn't just a bench warmer, but who still believes he should be a starter in this NBA in positions that are already filled by way better players, whether it be OG Anunoby at the 3 or Giannis at the 4.
Yeah. One thing about, some people say, hey, next year you could probably get Giannis for cheaper. What's the advantage of getting him in the door this year over getting him next year?
You mean the summer?
The summer. Yep.
Well, you brought up some good points that every teams that would want him as well would have more assets. We would, but so would other teams too, right? And I think we would have less leverage as well in the summer because more teams would kind of know where they are in the contention status after going through a playoffs or know whether they're real or not. Let's say Detroit asked themselves, are we real? Well, this upcoming playoff is going to show us whether they're a real team or not. Or a team like Orlando or a team like the Lakers. Is it worth getting off Austin Reeves for Giannis? They start asking those questions and wanting them to be answered by the potential of Giannis, not to mention the first round picks and swaps that become available once the summer hits compared to the deadline now. Also, I think it makes you always want to be the team that sets the dominoes. And Leon has shown a propensity to want to be the first team to make moves as soon as the opportunity arrives. Once that door opens, he likes to be the trendsetter for the rest of the NBA and knock down that first vertical, whether it be the OG Anunoby trade, whether it be the Quentin Grimes trade, whether it be the Josh Hart trade. He likes setting the standard rather than following. And he wants to be able to deal with teams when everyone still has their full caches, not when certain teams are taken out of position as a third team operator because they've already traded for a team and they no longer have said asset. So yeah, I think it also, but Giannis and Brunson now for this season. You're not punting on this year trying to think that all of a sudden Cats don't know how to play drop coverage and Jalen Brunson to be a point of attack defender. You're no longer deluding yourself. You're buying into the fact that Brunson needs elite defensive around him, and Giannis becomes instantly, from the moment he signs a contract or he signs with the team, the best Knicks in Knicks history. In franchise history, this is not a Paul George trade or even, no offense, a Carmelo Anthony trade. It certainly isn't an Amari Stoudemire signing. This is a top 10 player in NBA history, joining the Knicks and becoming the best player to ever wear that jersey.
Yeah, I think there are several reasons why it's better this year. One reason I think the biggest reason if you get them in the door this year is that they can't touch our 2 picks next year. So like if we go into the summer and then we try to trade for Giannis, those 2 picks are gone. Those 2 picks that the draft and whatever 2032, those are gone. They're gonna grab those. They don't. If we do a trade this year, they won't be able to touch those. And then we can use those to, we may have to like break those picks down and then try to fill in gaps or something. But they won't have access to it. I think Milwaukee. I think Giannis has a little bit more leverage in the summer, but at the same time, Milwaukee has no reason to give into his demand. Like Giannis may have more leverage, but if someone's willing to give more than the Knicks, they'll just go with the one who's willing to give more. They don't have any reason to go with us other than that's what Giannis wants. So you never know. We know Toronto went after Kawhi for 1 year, and there may be a team who's willing to try it for a year and hope they can convince him to stay. So it's been done before. All right, yeah. Do you think there's once you get Giannis in the building? Do you think there's more building to be done? Like,
if the trade does not expand beyond the parameters that we just came up with,
yeah.
So Deuce McBride, Pacome Dadier, Gerson Yabusele, potentially Tyler Tolik, Karl-Anthony Towns, and Mikal Bridges are out. Giannis and Jrue Holiday are in. I would say the only thing you would need at that point is a stretch 5. Mitchell Robinson would be your backup 5. Josh Hart would move to the bench and be pretty much your backup 3, 4. Landry Shamet would be your backup 2, 3. And then Jrue Holiday would actually lead the bench as a backup 1. That's why I would love to have Deuce, because it gives you another defender there, someone who can play the 1, 2, and 3 defensively, and just the 2 offensively. But yeah, I think the bench is still intact. You just need that stretch 5, because Giannis has proven that he has never played the 5 exclusively. He's played in stretches. He's closed as a 5, but he has never shown any desire to be the starting 5 on a team, especially not one where he would have to defend so much in pick and roll because they would target Jalen Brunson. So to me, you have to go out and try to find someone, not even like a unbelievable 3-point guy, 9 attempts a game, right? Just someone who's giving you 3-4 attempts a game on 36% shooting, so that the idea or the threat of him as a perimeter shooter, you have to at least kind of hedge and recover when he's in the corner, or at least stay at the level when he's atop of the key, because you can't leave him open, which allows for a wider driving lane for Giannis and Jalen Brunson because of maximizing that space and gravity. That would be the only position. It's easier said than done, right? But I think we would have the assets to find one. And I think between Leon and World Wide West, I think we would also be able to convince any buyout candidate, or even guys who all of a sudden become buyout candidates, to immediately sign with the Knicks upon being waived.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, yeah, there is that little building aspect to be done. Yesterday, we did receive a little bit of news about Rich Paul putting his name kind of out there, kind of meddling when it comes to it. Do you think that motivates? Would that motivate anyone?
What do you mean? From what perspective are you speaking from?
Okay. I did a little show this morning, and so it looks like Giannis does have his own agent. He cannot switch agents in 2 weeks. Like the NBA doesn't allow you. You have to actually submit paperwork. So he can't. So basically, Rich Paul is kind of in the shadows, and basically is telling his agent, if you don't get this done by the deadline this summer, I'll make it happen. Do you think that'll motivate maybe the agent to pull more, do a little bit more?
Hell yes. You have to. You're not just fighting for your job at that point. You're also allowing yourself to be a pawn in Rich Paul trying to enhance his legacy as a top 3 agent of all time. Again, I've said this. I think right now you got to consider David Falk to be the greatest agent in NBA history. But I think right now Rich Paul has a candidacy to be top 5, even top 3. If Giannis fired his agent, or even if Giannis was traded and it came out through reporting, because you know it will, that Rich Paul played a major hand in it, that raises his legacy and all the great names that he's held to I think number 2 or maybe even number 1. Because right now he's intrinsically tied to LeBron James as high school friends, guys who grew up together. It's hard to separate their legacies individually, but if he was able to go out with someone who he's never really been affiliated with, like Giannis, and bring him to the market that he has wanted to be at the most in Madison Square Garden, and then the Knicks win a championship, and Giannis goes down as the greatest Knick in the NBA in Knick history, you're talking about someone who will be remembered forever in the field of agents. So whoever I think this Octagon agent right now is who's representing Giannis. They're absolutely, you want to at least be a asterisk, right, or a postscript on that account in history to have your name attributed to the trade, and you want to do everything you can to appease your client, who's a top 3 player in the NBA, and get him where he wants to go. So even if that means Rich Paul working bat deal doors with our own bat deal agent in World Wide West, making things happen, you got to do it, man. You can't try to play anarchy and try to rot the ship and fight for ego, because I think Giannis will absolutely eliminate you and be like, look, bro, I'm staying in Milwaukee and then I'm going to New York in the summer.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. I did have a question. Actually, not so much of a question. We had certain people who said, hey, they'd rather trade for AD or Triple J. Are they on the? How do you see? Are they that kind of move? Would that put that on? Would that put us kind of in the area of where Giannis would bring us?
We'll do a few shout outs before I answer that question. Shout out still the real AD. Appreciate the love that I'm getting in the chat, man. It feels good to be on someone else's show. Give some love, Randu, 1973. We always see you in the KOT chat as well. But Data Wi-Fi, 3730. Hope to see Lee on the show more often. I enjoy his insight. Listen, man, I'm very humbled by the love that I get. I'm kind of a lightning rod. You either really love me or you really hate me. There's no in between. I'm glad my boy Fritz Alexander loves me, so I can share some wisdom with him and him share it with me and get to chop it up with him. No, those 2 players are not anywhere near the stratum of Giannis, even when they're fully healthy and in their prime. Giannis, AD, JJJ. I'm talking about historic resume, legacy, right? JJJ has done nothing in his career to even warrant being in the same conversation as Giannis or AD. AD is a championship second option. You cannot win with him as your best option, and his entire career has showed that. Showed that in New Orleans. They barely started to make the playoffs. Their best season was when they had another all-star in DeMarcus Cousins and a very smart point guard in Rondo. Then he went to the Lakers, and he was one of the best second fiddles of all time. I will not take away any credit to the type of number 2 option he was when he played with LeBron. But he is not a championship first option. And at this point, Mr. Glass is so injury prone that he makes Mitchell Robinson look like Mikal Bridges and as an Iron Man. So I have zero interest in adding AD, who is no longer the defensive or offensive player that he was in his prime. And JJJ, both those players, they bring more flaws than they do fixing holes. And I'm about fixing things right now. I want to fix the roster and the inefficiencies we have defensively, and neither of those 2 players do that to the level of Giannis, nor are neither of those 2 players a championship caliber winner that Giannis is.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. So I think we've covered it quite well. Yeah. So looking forward to what this deadline brings. Hopefully they listen to you, Lee, and don't listen to the other trade, because I really don't want to see. I definitely don't want to see that other trade. So definitely, if you do go to, please follow Lee on Twitter, and if you do see his trade, retweet it, because he put a lot of thought into it. So we're gonna probably clean it up and try to find out how it will look after we sign everybody what would be left over. Could you tell everybody where they can find you?
For sure. I'm pretty active on Twitter. It's the only social media app that I'm on outside of LinkedIn. But you can follow me at _ Lee Escobedo. Also, I'm managing the At the Time show Substack. I try to produce at least one article a week. I tend to lean on a lot of schematic analysis. So I like analyzing what Mike Brown is doing offensively and defensively in terms of X's and O's. I'm talking about real X's and O's talk too. I'm not talking about just like using buzzwords and vocabulary, but I really try to break down how his teams are either helping us or holding us back, or maybe how the personnel isn't qualified to fulfill them. And then you can also find me in my writing for The Guardian. I usually produce 2 or 3 essays a month on the intersection of politics, social issues, and sports. And then also my week-to-week coverage for the NBA and WNBA for Bleacher Report and Yard Marker. And you can find that by just Googling my name, Lee Escobedo, and NBA, and you'll see most of my stuff pop up.
All right, definitely. Well, again, I'm Fritz with the NBA Economy Show. You can find me on Twitter at Fritz Handles. Also, please subscribe to the NBA Economy Show. It's deadline time, and we're going live almost every day. Today was actually a couple times today. So thank you for joining us. Right now, I see combined 128. So thank you all for joining me. Please like and subscribe. I do have a Cash App link, but likes are free. So please.
I want to say one more thing before I go. If you enjoy this type of conversation, you can find me on also in the Time Show podcast. We tend to go live. Well, we do go live after every single game, win or loss, and try to break it down in objective, rational, logical analysis. I'm probably the hothead of the group, but there's a personality for everybody on the show. We have a rotating cast. Fritz is part of that. About 7 to 8 people that will join Jay Ellis, our esteemed host and founder, on the show to talk hoops, but also, again, support the NBA Economy Show. Fritz Alessandor, what I love about KOT is that Jay Ellis has a great eye for intellectuals. He likes having people around that know a lot about one thing or a few things, and they become kind of experts in the show. And Fritz is an analytical, mathematical savant. And he's taught me so much about how seeing trades from a financial point of view. And I think he's one of the strongest voices we have on Twitter. And he's also trying to grow his channel. And he's a very humble guy. So he ain't going to tell you this, but I will, because I have a deep love and respect for him. Please give him a follow and support American entrepreneurs that are trying to break into this media game that is full of the things that we hate about the Knicks: nepotism, cronyism, gatekeeping. Fritz ain't on here giving you any gambling degeneracy codes, not caring if you lose your lunch or not, or put your family in bankruptcy. He's here giving you very solid stats, very rational analysis, and very high quality content. Look at the graphics, look at the production, look at the mic. That's all of his investment, his time. He's not only one of the smartest people I know, he's one of the kindest people I know. And he doesn't like it when I compliment him like that, but I'm going to, because I'm on the show and I want his fan base to know just how special he is to me and how special he is to this Nets community. So please give this video a like, but more importantly, subscribe and tune in when he goes live.
Thank you. Thank you for all the compliments, Lee. So
You bet, brother.
we will see you next time, and see you next time.